Hello and welcome to Motor Racing 360, brought to you by Repco. I'm Jess Yates alongside Paul Murray. PM, good to see you.
Lovely to see you.
A big hello and welcome to our regulars, Mark Scaife, James Phelps. Gentlemen, it is time to start the show with Tyregate. This is a big story in Supercars. So we can reveal here, as I'm sure most would have heard this week, that Supercars have lost in the National Court of Appeal. So the category appealed a decision by Motorsport Australia. The stewards chose not to penalise Kai Allen last round in Perth for breaching the minimum tyre pressure rules. Now, what's been really interesting about the way this has all played out on Monday in Melbourne was that we actually don't know why that ruling has been made. So we're expecting a full explanation as to how the appeal has gone down and the reasons behind knocking Supercars back in 14 days. Now, I've got to say I'm pretty shocked by the outcome of this because it feels like this is a very black and white rule. Precedents would show how it's been dealt with in the past, which is to penalise a driver if they breach the minimum tyre pressure. So in all of this argument, there has been mitigating circumstances, and we've got obviously the findings from that initial hearing around the penalty in Perth. But I'm interested for your reactions to the fact that this has been thrown out of the appeals court.
I mean, the idea is we've talked about that it's like when there's a technical issue, then it's binary, right? You're on this side of the line or that side of the line, regardless of whether there is human error or instrument error, well, maybe not instrument error, but the idea about what happens after you've been found to be on the wrong side of it. You would have thought that that would have been where this was resolved, but that's not where it's landed.
Let's cut to the chase. We don't know why they made this ruling because we have to wait 14 days. It's very hard to talk about it and for Supercars to come up with an argument when no reasons were given.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, and you've got to remember that when you go to the appeal process, so the National Court of Appeal is essentially points of law. Yeah. So when you go there, everyone's KC'd up, and you go there and you argue what had come out of the previous stewards' hearing. So I think the chronology of this is important because there was clearly a breach. It's a black and white breach. They were under the minimum tyre pressure. As a consequence of being under the minimum tyre pressure, the stewards found them in breach. They had infringed.
It was acknowledged.
Exactly. However, the stewards, in their discretion, didn't do what they had normally done, which was either exclude you from the race or take your championship points from that race, which that's where you're talking about precedents. When that's happened over the last 4 or 5 years, we've got a complete list of those, that you went through and got all those out. The reality around what's gone on, and these are the instances we were just talking about, but when you make those points, and there has been precedents, you've then gone to a court of appeal where you're actually really only dealing with what was raised at the hearing and what the verdict was, essentially. So you don't actually have a rehearing.
Yeah. And this court of appeal has only been used once before, and it was never intended for Supercars to take on Motorsport Australia. It's set up for drivers and teams to challenge. And the one time was when 888 were disqualified from a race, and that's the only time it's been used. So.
But as significant as it has been, I mean, teams aren't all turning up to Ipswich now thinking that they can go a point of anything.
But it has opened a can of worms. So what was a really black and white ruling has now been clouded in grey, and you can bet your bottom dollar that everyone is going to be looking at what the regulation says and how they might flirt on the edge of it.
Is there a margin of error in that?
Yeah, so Nick Percat and what happened with Nick Percat back in 2021 in Darwin is probably a more similar circumstance to what unfolded for Kai Allen in Perth, right? So their argument was that they had breached the minimum tyre pressure regulation because their tyres were parked in the shade. And that was one of the arguments that Penrite Racing were able to put forward as a mitigating factor in why the tyre pressures weren't where they needed to be. When you look at what transpired in that particular case, I mean, they lost their team's championship points. He wasn't disqualified, but they were the ones that actually flagged it with Supercars on the grid and said, we know that we've breached the rule. How can we fix this? They put new tyres on and they copped a points penalty. So the question that I have is, why wasn't that same ethos applied in this particular instance? And we'll obviously get some more clarity around that once we get the findings from the appeal tribunal. But it puts a bit of grey area over this. So how are Supercars going to deal with this moving forward?
Yeah, look, this is a really difficult thing. And what you said at the start of this was basically precedence, but also consistency.
Yep.
So when you have consistency across those penalties, the other part that we expect from our judicial system is that the penalty fitting the crime. So when you go through, this document here sets out the recommended penalties, right? So basically the deal between the rule book and the stewards, and essentially how the penalties are applied, is really explicitly done in exactly here. You go through D17 to tyres. The last point is breach of minimum tyre pressure, and it says in qualifying and race, if you've breached session disqualification for a qualifying session or race disqualification in a race.
Well, but also,
how did you get this document, mate? Because the teams actually don't have it, which is what I found quite, extraordinary. It's something that is given to the stewards, and Supercars have it, and it actually traces back to these amendments being made in 2014 when they came up with some discretion in some areas. They thought they were black and white and that discretion would never be used, but we found one that's black, grey and white. And that's what it's all about going forward, is this document right here. The rules aren't going to be changed. These are going to be changed. So
they're going to be more explicit. They've got to be able to tighten the things up. They've also got to tighten up some definitions, because when we said this whole appeal process was done at points of law, then it's all about the definition. What's the definition of a race? What's the definition of a circuit? What's the definition of these things? So when you go back and you peel back the layers, then in points of law, Grove have obviously put a very good argument together, and then we're able to substantiate that in the appeals process. So I'm with you, Jess. I thought it was going to be reasonably clear-cut. I thought it would be a pretty simple aspect of defining the rule, and Supercars having to uphold the rule in terms of the integrity of the category. But we've been surprised by this for sure.
Look, going forward, there's a simple solution. Motorsport Australia had a meeting with Supercars today. They did talk about amending the penalties. They don't need permission from the teams, but they've gone to the teams. The teams are all united behind this, which is great to see. They're going to amend that rule, penalty, obviously, and they're going to look at some... Yeah, well, they're going to make it clear. It will be clear-cut.
It is clear, though, isn't it? I would have thought that's pretty clear.
Even clearer. I don't know the technicalities of it.
Perhaps getting everyone to read.
But hey, let's common sense here. Do you think that the stewards, and it's going to be the same 3 stewards who made the decision last week at Ipswich, would ever take this on again after the controversy?
So this is the very question, isn't it, though? A new precedent has been set. So moving forward, why can't teams go and argue mitigating circumstances around not meeting the required minimum tyre pressures and the accuracy of the sensors? So that's also been part of this argument here, is that 0.4 PSI has been taken into account. So does there need to be more clear-cut regulation around the accuracy of the sensors? And it's not just for minimum tyre pressures, is it for all the sensors on the car that are measuring all sorts of things?
Yeah, look...
This is the can of worms we're talking about.
So the actual manufacturer of the TPMS, the tyre pressure monitoring system, has a tolerance of 0.36 PSI as the tolerance. So it's hard to argue when you're only slightly under 0.1 or 0.2 of PSI and the manufacturer says there's a tolerance of 0.36.
Yeah.
So you've obviously now got to take that window of tolerance into account. But to your point, 23 other cars were over 16 PSI, right?
And they were sitting in the shade too.
And they were in the shade also. Yeah. So you've got to take those mitigating circumstances and say, guys, everyone else, the onus was on everyone else to ensure that they were above the minimum tyre pressure.
The solution is to have no discretion and have mandatory penalties. And we once had that. And the reason that was changed to add some discretion was because there was some, disqualifications and penalties. It just didn't fit the crime. People are sitting in a pub going, that bloke just got cost a win. No way he should have been done for that.
Yeah.
Discretion got put in and that opened the can of worms. So it's a technically challenging problem to get it right, and also have an independent body enforcing that and making the ruling on it.
Yeah, look, this is going to be a really hot topic in the pit lane at Queensland Raceway this weekend. I know everyone will have an opinion on it, but I think part of also understanding whether the penalty fits the crime is around the advantage that you gain by that. And so I think there's been some argument that, there was no advantage gained, but there can be an advantage gained by not running enough tyre pressure, correct?
Totally. And it has a inherent effect the longer you run, obviously. So if you start with a lower pressure, you finish that stint of the race or whatever with the lower pressure. That's just the fact of life. So anyway...
are they going to have a review of that done for Queensland Raceway?
It'll be sorted, and the racing's back on, and it's going to be a ripper, and we're going to have Will Brown back fighting with some gear.
Yeah, we certainly are. Well, speaking of Will Brown, it's been a big week for him, of course. One of the big stories that we'll be talking about this weekend at Queensland Raceway is the fact that the Rebel Ampol racing team made the revelation last week that he's actually been running an undersized air restrictor on his engine this season. So we're really thrilled to be able to welcome him to Motor Racing 360 tonight. He's standing by for us at Red Bull HQ. Hey, Will, great to have a chat with you. Before we get into all your stuff, I'm interested to get your reaction to the fact that Supercars' appeal was thrown out of court on Monday. What do you make of the whole thing?
Yeah, I reckon you might see a few cars go under this weekend as well. But no, we just had our pre-brief, and obviously it was a discussion point that came up to understand what we do with our tyre pressures. Obviously, a lot of people start their pressures around 16.5, 16.6 to be very lenient and make sure that they don't go under, because it was always a disqualification, so you never wanted to risk it. Now, obviously, with this coming out and them getting away with it, it adds in question points to, do we get lower? Do we go lower? Can we drop below it now and actually get away with it? So, yeah, I think you'll see people pushing the limits a lot more out there, and we'll see what comes of it.
It's going to be really, really fascinating to see who flirts on the edge of that. I know that it's been a roller coaster of emotion for you over the last week. So I want you to just take me back to that day where you actually got the phone call. Who rang you and told you, I know we've been searching for an answer and we think we might have found exactly what the problem has been this season?
Yeah, I guess they probably delivered it to me the best they could, and that was through Andrew Edwards, my engineer. We have a great relationship together and really enjoy working together. So, yeah, Andrew rang me. It was about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. I can't remember what night, Tuesday or Wednesday last week, and said we think we found a problem with the car, and sort of explained it. And within that time, Pete Ringwood had also sent me a message to give him a call when I could. So, obviously, it was one of those things. You're probably pretty angry at the time, but also, relieved that there actually was something as well in the car. But yeah, it wasn't an enjoyable couple of days, that's for sure.
And certainly, Will, when you were talking about it, that sense of, look, I'm really annoyed here, but I don't really have a person to blame. That's a lot of emotion on top of now a possibility of being able to have even better performance from this weekend. So what have you done different to get rid of all of that energy? Have you been running? Have you been finding cats to kick? What have you been doing
selling cars?
Yeah, selling cars. What have you been doing that is different to let it out? Because fans were pissed off on your behalf, heartbroken on your behalf, because the pressure on you has been borderline, if not outright unfair. So we just want to know, what did you do to get through the past week?
Unfortunately, you just want to go into hiding and just do the whatever you want, go on a holiday, have some beers, have a great time and that. But unfortunately, we're in motorsport, things don't stop for these sort of things. So, it's disappointing, but I was still doing my appearances, still training, going to the gym, doing the things that I have to do to try and prepare for Ipswich. So, like I say, I would have loved to do many things over the last week and sort of just get away from it all. But we're right in the middle of our season. It's sort of do or die for us right now, and finding that was sort of something that you've got to dig deep and try and be positive. To be honest, I as you guys know, I try and be a very positive person. I feel like over this year, even with I think being at a disadvantage to a lot of the other cars, I've tried being positive and tried driving back through the field. But that was my biggest thing, just trying to find some positive outcomes of it and not dwell too much on what the last 8 months has been, because to be honest, it has been tough. And I'm probably in a fortunate situation in my career that I've won a championship and sort of quite cemented in the championship. But if this was to happen to a rookie or a Zach Bates, Rylan Gray, someone like that that's already trying to find their feet, it could be career ending. So probably as much as I hate that it was me, it's one of those things, and you just got to press on and get over it, really. So yeah, I've had my moments where I want to kick and scream and blame someone for the situation and all that sort of stuff, but at the end of the day, that doesn't help anyone involved.
Hey, great answer, Will, and you put that in perspective really well, mate. Obviously, last year you had a really good result at Ipswich. It's a place that you like. What do you do this weekend now in terms of preparation? Further to Paul's question, new car. You didn't do a shakedown. Did Jamie do a shakedown earlier in the year with that car?
Yeah, so that's actually the car I believe that the team sent over. They built it and then sent it over to do the wind tunnel testing, and then that came back, never have turning a lap of a track. and Jamie actually took it out and shook it down about 2 or 3 months ago, just to make sure that it was prepared that if we ever did have a big crash or anything like that and had to step into that chassis, that it was ready to go. So we've had to move a few things over, and as I said, we were extremely lucky because we're already doing the car switch, and we were going to switch that air intake over onto that car. So we would have had the same disadvantage if it wasn't found during the time. So very lucky that that's happened. And to be honest, I questioned whether I wanted to go into the new car. We had found something that was wrong with the old car. The old car was probably doing everything we wanted apart from that. So it's a bit of a risk stepping into the new car as well. But I trust that all the boys and girls here at Red Bull Ampol Racing do a fantastic job. So it's a new thing for us this weekend, but a lot of positives to look forward to as well.
Will, we had a conversation with Jamie off the record last week, and he got quite emotional when we asked about some of the hard love that he'd given you throughout the year. And there's been reports that he put you on a performance plan, that you put some other impositions put on you, like having to go into the workshop. I mean, what actually happened, and how do you feel now that you're fighting with one hand behind your back?
Yeah, I don't want to get too much into it, to be honest. There's probably the hard part of, not from Jamie's side, but from the whole situation is that, not only from the team side, but fans and people inside the industry, that you are very much judged on your performance in our sport. And that's every sport, and you've got to do a good job. But I probably changed a lot of things over the off-season that needed to be changed and people wanted me to change. So dug deep, did a lot of training, made sure I was down here more, sort of just really, as you guys know, I do a lot away from the track. So step back from all the business side of things and everything just to concentrate on a massive season. And where I feel like I've been, putting in the effort and working 150% to try and make sure that I was competitive this year, to now know that after all that, I was sort of, no matter how much I did or what I've done behind the scenes this year to make sure I did a better job, that it was never going to be possible. So you sort of, that's a very hard thing to take, to be honest. That's probably been my most difficult situation, is just the effort I put in this year to try and make sure that, last year everyone said that, I probably didn't perform to the level at the end, back half of the year. I still came second in the championship and gave the team a chance to win another championship. But this year, to be honest, it's been the hardest thing to take right now and hardest thing to be positive about. But, what can I do? You just dig deep, you move on, and you prepare for this weekend. And I'm still 7th in the championship, still got a chance to win the championship. So, it's disappointing, but you can't change my last 8 months, and for anyone else either. So it is what it is.
One thing we don't want to change is what you did at the Grand Prix this year, Will. What a performance now with hindsight, qualifying first on the most power-dependent track with a car with a dodgy restrictor.
Yeah, it shows how big that lap was, doesn't it? No, it was. It's obviously cool to get a pole. We probably should have had another 1 or 2 poles looking at the data. But like I say, I don't want to get too down on it, because I probably spent my weekend trying to put it behind me and just come into a big week of Ipswich and going racing with. At the end of the day, it's just, a lot of people online are probably thinking, he better go to Ipswich and he better win. But at the end of the day, all I'm turning up with is the same equipment and same opportunity as everyone else. There's some great drivers out there. Grove are beating us due to the job they're doing and currently how well they're rolling out early in the weekend and setup-wise. So I'm not going there thinking we're just going to win straight away. Obviously, I'm dug deep. I've probably got a fire underneath me to come there and try and prove something to everyone. But at the end of the day, I also need to be realistic, is that, we've had a tough couple of rounds from a balance point of view and setup as well. So we're finding our feet there and trying to build on that. We're obviously, we found a 10th and a half without doing anything, and you don't get that very often in this sport. So I hope there's another 10th and a half somewhere there like that. But we just got to roll with the punches and just prepare as best we can and just get back to normal racing. It's going to take a bit, build confidence. People talk about it, but it is one of those things. You've got to build your confidence over time, and for us, that's building back for Gold Coast, where we want to have a great Bathurst, but we're building back for Gold Coast in the finals to really hit it hard and jump out there and try and have a strong run home. So not counting ourselves out yet, that's for sure.
And knowing you the way I do, I know that you are always up for a challenge. If someone can say to you, you can't do this or it's impossible, you will find a way to make it happen. And I know that starts this weekend at Queensland Raceway. So it's been a happy hunting ground for you and your organisation there over you know, a long period of time. Is there a bit of an advantage with Queensland Raceway being your home track? And how do you really make sure that you maximise every opportunity and start to build that confidence that I know that you've been missing this year?
Yeah, obviously this weekend, like I said, I got a bit of a fire there and want to prove a few people wrong. But you know, you also got to keep it calm and try and, you know, execute and go through the procedures and everything like that, the processes that we're used to. But yeah, QR obviously last year was probably one of my best rounds. You know, qualified in the top 3 or 4 for all the races. Had a win there, so that's my last win actually was at QR. So obviously it's happy hunting grounds for us and something that for me it's a home round. I've got a lot of friends, family and everything like that coming out. So yeah, it's going to be exciting. I hope we can turn it around and start pushing forward. If we could, you know, even if it was like we want to win, like I say, but if we're in that top 5 all weekend and really up there with the chance to win again, it'd be fantastic.
I thought it was nice of your co-driver to try to share some of the attention of the past few days. What was that chat like over the weekend?
Yeah, I'm sure you guys will be putting that one up on the big screen with some of the stuff he gives Supercars. But no, it was quite funny. I remember getting sent it by a few people, and I was like, oh, that was an interesting one. I'm sure you know, when you scrutinise other people, you've got to be very careful you don't make those mistakes. So Scott actually had a laugh about it. He is good like that. He'll sort of make a joke of it himself and have some fun with it, and he understands how it all goes.
Absolutely.
So obviously, I remember doing the displays at Geelong and all that, and that is, when you're doing a display, it's if you crash, it feels terrible and it's the most embarrassing thing ever. So I can only imagine how he felt for a while, but he took it quite well and put it all over the socials and that, had a laugh with it. But yeah, hopefully just that's his only crash for this year.
Absolutely, and none of that when there's a baby seat in the back. All the best to you, Will.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on to Motor Racing 360. The good news is if there are any celebratory burnouts to do this year, they are all yours. We'll see you at Queensland Raceway on the weekend.
Cheers, thanks guys.
Yeah, that's a tough one to live down. Do they run lessons for doing burnouts, Scafey?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. Do they do it at Goodwood at all, Phelpsy?
With the jacket.
The only thing more embarrassing than that is this jacket. I'll give it that. But to his credit, he called supposed to be from Latvia, and it was
He's owning it. Come on.
Show some balls here. That was his first burnout he's ever done in a supercar, and he did it after crashing into a wall. He's only won one race, and that was at Melbourne, and you're not allowed to do them there. So to think about it, you're sitting there thinking, I'm about to become a meme, reverse it out, and then actually do a donut. Not bad. But what I loved about this story was that there's this account called The Daily Dump. The guy's only got about 700 followers, and I'm one of them. I think it's outstanding. A guy called SVG has suddenly popped up on the account, and he doesn't do much on social media, and he's given it to him. And that's a mate.
Yeah.
And the WhatsApp chat group apparently was even better.
That's good. Yeah, everyone owned it.
And what about Scotty Mack got involved here too? It's consistent.
Hey, just about Will, you can see this fight inside himself, right? Where there clearly is a guy who is pissed off about what has happened to him, but equally there's a guy who's kind of desperate to make the most of the moment. And I've got to say, I was fascinated looking forward to the chat because we all knew what was behind the scenes. We saw his first reactions on socials, right? And it all still was very raw. And you could see with Will that this fight is still in him, right? It must be hard when where do you put all that aggro? Where do you put that energy?
Punching bag, Paul.
For Will, I have to say, on the Sunday in Perth was the most dejected I think I have ever seen him. He got out of that car and he walked in, and he always goes straight to Andrew Edwards, and it was really evident to see he had no answers. They're all wanting to know, like, what is going on? Where is this performance? And he just was scratching his head going, I just don't even know where. Look, he had lost all faith in himself. I really think he thought, I don't have this anymore, I can't do this anymore. And I think part of that is the relief of, actually, I can believe in myself, I can start to build that confidence up. Stand back. I mean, a Will Brown on a mission is somebody that will be a sight to behold on the weekend. He will have his, I don't know anyone that's more aggressive than him, maybe Brodie Kostecki, and that's probably why they're such good mates.
Well, ironically,
it's going to be fascinating.
You saw him going from the pressure of lowered expectations because of performance to now the pressure of high expectations because home track, because of the fight back, all of it, Scafey. Again, when there are these things that you cannot control and there are things that you think are absolutely unfair that have happened to you, right? But the reality is it's a job and every person who's got a job has had moments that are unfair. Some are more public than others. How do you channel it? I mean, these days it's all sports psychologists and crystals, but how should you actually deal with it?
His days, he was Peter Brock.
Oh,
Well,
yeah,
it
heaps
was-
of crystals.
Hey!
Well, it's about the self-belief. You know, I think what Will said to us then is, you know, you start to question whether you're still driving the car okay, but clearly he was, and he is. You don't win a championship and then forget how to drive
Totally.
over.
That's what I love that he mentioned that too. So, no, I'm here.
I'm here.
I'm proper.
I mean,
Yeah.
So I think his mindset sounds good. His reaction over the weekend will be really interesting in terms of how he rolls out, how he interprets the data when he's looking against Feeney. Because remember, Feeney had an extraordinary season last year. I mean, to have 19 pole positions, one of the best qualifying performances in the history of the sport,
time.
right? So when you put that in perspective, it's hard to be the teammate in the other side of the garage when that's unfolding.
But also, it's a thing where, look, hopefully the text messages, the apologies and the beers have been had, the sorries, all the rest of it, because you don't want anything to fester.
Yeah.
And I think you could see during that interview, as the will we know is well and truly back and starting to come before our eyes, you can see that process is not one where everyone's going to stand around and not talk about the elephant in the room.
Oh, no.
They've dealt with it,
Play on.
slay it, push it aside and push on.
Yep.
Do you want some good news?
Yes.
Everyone want the good news?
Yes.
The good news is F1 is back this
Oh,
weekend. That's right, the Dutch Grand Prix right here on Fox Sports.
Empty your mind. Nothing exists but 5 lights. The calm within the chaos. A human on the edge. Too fast for fear. Greatness measured in milliseconds. Eyes forward. Drive.
3 weeks is a long time with no Formula One. Thank goodness.
Did you really miss it? Did you?
Yeah. I mean, I don't do much on the weekends.
Yeah.
Rugby league, Supercars, Formula One. Kids, my
life,
life,
baby.
yeah. Now it's back
But
to
the
normal
Dutch Grand
programming.
Prix, we're here.
I know, and it's the last one, which is really interesting, and I think puts a whole different emphasis on it this weekend. But if you think back 12 months ago, it was Oscar Piastri who was the star of the Dutch Grand Prix, winning from pole position. So is that a bit of an omen, Mark? Is this where we see Oscar turn things around? Can he get back to his winning ways? Come on, give us more good news.
Well, let's hope so, because not only did he won the race, he got pole position, he got the fastest lap in the race. This is a cool layout. This is sort of a beachside area, about 35k from Amsterdam, and this is on board. So let's just have a look at this lap, because the best passing spot is actually into turn 1. And have a look at the banking. It's one of the only places in the world that's got 2 big bank corners. So turn 3 has got a 19-degree banking right here. Bang, in here. Check that banking out.
Wow.
And then late in the lap at turn 12, there's another one that's got 18 degrees. It's really qualifying dependent. It's really hard to pass. It's fast and flowing. But one of the things about it is that when you get that flow going, and you can see Oscar there, not only, as I said, was pole, won the race, but fastest lap in the race. When you get that flow going, and he's obviously very good at this, you can see him use every millimetre of road there, gets it turned, gets it back to the apex. And one of the things about this place is that because it's a seaside area, it actually changes quite a lot, you know, day to day, week for week in terms of the grip level. So this is the last of the bank corners. That's 18 degrees, that one. So when you get to the final part of the lap, getting onto the straight's really important, and then into turn 1, as I said, is the primary overtaking spot. So cool layout, big fast corner coming onto the straight, and let's hope, to your point, that Oscar's back there again.
I think there's going to be a few Max fans at the Dutch Grand Prix. What
It
do you
will be,
reckon?
I reckon. Last one.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Time for a quick break here on Motor Racing 360. When we come back, we're going to hear from the voice of Formula One, David Croft, who has the rest of the season preview. Stay with us. You're watching Motor Racing 360. Well, the good news is Formula One is back this weekend, and we caught up with the voice of F1, David Croft, who believes McLaren are still very much in the championship fight.
Lando and Oscar, are they too far behind? No, I don't think they are. There's a lot of points to go. There really is. If Lando can keep up the form that he's in, then that deficit can be reduced. And Max Verstappen proved that last year that can happen. So don't count out Lando, don't count out McLaren. Do you count out Oscar? Let's wait and see this weekend. If he can produce a great performance and win comfortably this weekend, brilliant. Round of applause for Oscar. He has produced drives this season. Japan, he was sensational in Japan. The are very much the Oscar of old. But there have been other races where he's been a long way off his teammate from the outset, with seemingly no answer to try and find a way to get on terms with his teammate.
He's a big believer in Lando Norris.
All in, I would suggest, is the term. All in.
Really? You reckon?
He's got shares in his helmet.
I know that'll come as a great shock to everyone, being the British commentator talking about the Brits' favourite boy.
Even talking to an Aussie, he was giving him a... And
I did give him a bit of a hard time about that and said, come on now, you've got to have a bit more faith in Oscar. I mean, we saw some incredible performances from him last year. These two went toe-to-toe, and I liked what I saw in the opening part of that Grand Prix in Hungary before it all went pear-shaped for him with a team call in strategy and then the failure that he had. Do you think this is where Oscar needs to make his move, though, if he's going to stay in touch with Lando? Because it feels like there's sort of two different contests happening here. They're obviously trying to chase down Antonelli and Mercedes, but there is a bit of a fight going on for supremacy within McLaren.
Oh, well, it definitely is. But as we were just saying, to be pole last year, to win the race and have the fastest lap, that bodes well. You go back to that location, got great memories from last year, you know that you did a really good job. So that's a nice way to prepare yourself for whatever the race meeting is.
And the real story is, like last round, obviously he got the upgrades a little bit later than Lando did, and the excuse or the reason was because they had the rookie driver in. If that's true, fair enough. But there's also the other side of the argument where they could have put those upgrades in with the rookie. So is that them favouring Lando or not? We don't know yet. We hope not.
I just look forward to more proof of what McLaren was telling us last week, that everyone's happy.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's unified. Everyone's focused on the one goal.
Well, I did pose that question to Crofty, who said to me, you can't believe everything you hear over the radio. I said, oh, that's interesting, because it's always in the heat of battle, right? And he said, I think what you'll find behind the scenes is they are a pretty unified bunch, because they know if they're not pulling in the same direction, they're not going to actually be able to catch Mercedes. And that is the name of the game at this point. But the head-to-head battle between these two is always really fascinating. And I think for Oscar, he's probably going to have to show another level of intensity, another level of, grit and performance that maybe we haven't seen from him yet in what is still a very early part of his career in Formula One.
Absolutely.
What we've seen so far has been really impressive, but I think probably now is the time he's going to have to push it to another level.
But looking at those numbers, clearly the number that you've got to do better is qualifying. And a place that you were pole last year, we know that Zandvoort's really hard to pass. So qualifying this weekend will be really highly important for him.
Now, we're expecting that the story around Max Verstappen's future is either going to be the biggest story of the season or the biggest non-story of the season. So I know that'll thrill you all, but Crofty really believes that a potential move to McLaren is a real prospect for Verstappen.
All these talks between the Verstappen camp and McLaren, and Max was included in those talks, might be trying to get a better deal at Red Bull. There's so many different facets to this story. I'm led to believe that Oscar is locked into McLaren, and there's no chance they're going to get rid of him unless they pay him a lot of money. And there's more money on the table for that than there is with Lando. He's kind of more tightly associated and locked in with McLaren than Lando is. That's the information I've been given. As is the case at Red Bull, that Max is not in the top two, so he can leave and he can activate that clause. Then there's a deadline. Yeah, the deadline, as far as I'm aware, is October. Red Bull, McLaren, Oscar, Lando. I'm sure they would love to know now, but Max ain't going to tell him.
When you think about it, we're not that far out of October. I mean, we're at the end of August. We've got another, 6 weeks of racing, and then we'll probably have some indication as to what Max is going to do. But from the mail that Crofty's been able to deliver, it's actually more expensive to get rid of Oscar Piastri. If that was what McLaren wanted to do in, making way for Max, then it would be for Lando, which is interesting. I just get the feeling money is probably not the issue.
Yeah,
for that team in all of this.
And we did the math on that a couple of weeks ago on the show and said that that was the case. And but yeah, it's not about money. If they want Max, they'll pay. But the thing is, October is a long way away when we have to talk about this every single week. I'm over it.
I know, what is it, assume nothing, all the rest of it here, but my feeling is that it's more towards the non-story of things, because interestingly, they're totally unscientific, but still, F1 official socials came out with sort of driver lineups for next year, and locked into place was McLaren and was Max. Now, obviously, can anything change? Sure. But you would think when F1 has put such focus on their growth in performance this year being socials, that if there is grey area, don't play into the grey area. So, again, that's just me reading tea leaves that may well end up being coffee beans, but that's my thoughts.
But you have to also just go backwards and say, I'm McLaren and I need the best performance from my team. Now, you've got a customer engine scenario, so there's a lot of discussion around that. Is that an issue for you? You've got two guys that week in, week out are as fast and as good as anyone in the field week in, week out. So, and when you watch them mostly, there are like a half a tenth or a tenth of a second difference between them. So the job for the driver is to drive the best mousetrap, drive that car as well as you can possibly drive it. Now, if you put Max Verstappen in that car, they don't go any faster. Correct. You can only drive the car right to the limit of its adhesion.
It changes everything. So you ask the current world champion, Lando Norris, oh, by the way, you're going to get a new teammate and it's Max, and are you happy with that? What do you think he's going to say? Do you think he wants to be teammates with Max?
What I read out of what you just said before is it's a conspiracy theory. F1 have got Max on board to distract them from the battery saga by creating this whole...
Now you've completely
that's pretty much what you said, isn't it?
Here to help.
You have completely lost your mind. I am going to put all my eggs in Max's basket this weekend.
If not now, never. Come on.
Like, it's playing beautifully into his hands. The last Dutch Grand Prix in front of what will be an incredible crowd there for him. If anyone can make this work, and we've seen it when we were doubting it through the season so far, this has got to be Max's moment, doesn't it?
And best crowd of the year, right?
Oh, it will be unbelievable. It's a great facility to also. So, yeah, the reaction to the homeboy and the way that this is all going to roll out will be extraordinary.
We saw one Red Bull crash into a wall earlier. Another one will crash into the wall this week. It's going to be Kimmy's round.
Oh, well,
I reckon Oscar round.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, you reckon Oscar?
I reckon
All right,
Oscar.
so two Maxes, an Oscar and a Kimmy.
Yeah, well, all eyes, no doubt, this weekend on Kimi Antonelli and how he actually handles the pressure as we count down to what could be such a defining moment for him as he moves closer to becoming a world champion. But Crofty, he believes that he has what it takes to get it done.
This is his last race as a teenager, by the way. He turns 20 next Tuesday. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't really remember when I turned 20. I barely remember when I turned 50. But I certainly wasn't in a position where I could cope with leading a prestigious world championship like Formula One by 50 points. To win Monaco is one thing, to lead and to take that checkered flag and be the winner in a place like Monaco is a phenomenal achievement. But to do it, surviving restarts as well, and Lewis Hamilton breathing down your neck, that is something else. But he's taken his opportunities, he's taken his chances in the first half of the season. Others are now catching up with Mercedes. The car advantage that Kimi and George have enjoyed in the first part of the season isn't going to be there, I don't think, for very much longer.
I think the question heading into the back end of this season now is who can consistently compete with Mercedes. You want to throw Ferrari into the mix, but we saw the strategy call last round anything's possible to completely undo their chances of actually being in that fight. So I'm interested to see how they play the back end of this year. But for Antonelli, isn't it incredible to think he's 19, he turns 20 on Tuesday, right on the brink of something incredibly special. How do you think he is actually going to handle the pressure? Because up to now it's felt like he's just been in the moment and risen to the occasion, certainly. But when that pressure starts to build and you're staring right at the face of realising that dream, I think it's an entirely different prospect. But he's shown us already that he's pretty special.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, I thought the thing that really defined it for me was that Monaco win. You know, that was just extraordinary. And when you think about it, so I remember really clearly when Emerson Fittipaldi was the youngest world champion ever in 1972, he was 25 years of age. So a 5-year gap back to a 20-year-old to be a world champion. Unbelievable run.
Time for a quick break here on Motor Racing 360. When we come back, everything you need to know heading into the final round of the Supercars Sprint Cup. Stay with us.
Here's the big move down the inside. Does he get there for the lead? Waters has done a cunning job of getting back out the other side in front of him. Nice, well played. Now they duel it out again down at turn 4. And the crisscross is on one more time. Does he stay in there? No, he thought about it. What a great little battle between them. A winner in the first race yesterday. And today, Feeney does the job and recovers to take victory in Queensland Raceway. Absolute domination.
What gets you going thanks to Repco? Well, Supercars at Queensland Raceway for the final round of the Sprint Cup will do it, I think. We always think that Queensland Raceway is fairly simple because on paper, Mark, it looks like a bit of a paperclip. That's what it's been called over the years. But there is actually a bit more to it. And we're expecting a resurgence, can I say, from the Red Bull and pole racing team this year because it's been a happy hunting ground for them.
Yeah, absolutely, Jess. So we'll bring up the track map for you because it's only just a bit over 3K. It hasn't got a lot of elevation change at all, but it's characterised by 2 really fast corners, turn 1 and turn 2. About 180k mid-corner speed there at turn 2. Big long straights, heavy braking area at 3 and 6. And then the only left-handers are in the centre of the racetrack. This is last year, Brock Feeney pole position, one of the 19 that he had. Really bumpy braking area here. Get it turned, make the apex, then use all of the road on the exit. And this is one of the weirdest corners in the country because it's a fast turn in. You get a real balance change in the middle of the corner, and then it's so important to come off the corner down this big long back straight. The braking area down here has got a strange bump in the left-hand side of it. You just see it there at about the 150 marker, and then you brake it, modulate it, get it turned. You use a lot of engine braking, and then the traction off these slow corners, turn 3 and turn 6, is really important to get off the corner with minimal wheel spin. This is the left-hander, heavy braking area again, hard to get it stopped, hard to get it to the apex. Some people use second, some people use third gear there, and then a fast-flowing left-hander in the middle of the track. Again, that exit curb's a really easy one to make a mistake with. And then to finish the lap, you often outbrake yourself at this corner. So there's a little patch on the road there that you try to find. There's a bit more grip with a new patch, and then be able to come off the final corner in third gear and get it to the line. So it's a cool little racetrack, actually a hard lap.
Can I ask a track design question, which is that I noticed sort of out of 2 there was a little bit of extra concrete after the ripple strip. We see it at other tracks where it'll be there or not there. When you're designing, what is the decision made about whether there's that little bit extra, because a little bit extra is key to everyone's performance, versus, no, there's just the ripple strip and it ends?
That's the drama. So originally, that's what it was. It was originally just a ripple strip, a Ballalunga ripple strip curb. And then what happened is it kept on running over, so then digs out behind it. So the people that were running the racetrack of the day, they put more concrete in. But if you keep on putting more concrete there, Paul, you just keep on using it.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just the same thing.
It's like in Perth at the end.
Greedy,
sort of
those race car drivers.
Just a quick point, guys. Huge round for Cam Waters. He had a shocker here last year. Where he is in the fight at the moment, he needs a big round.
Oh, he's all right. He's going okay. I think he's going to be right on the money. Time for our confidence call, brought to you by Ipswich Super. I'm looking for some bold predictions this weekend. And your bold prediction can't be that Matt Payne wins the Sprint Cup, Mark, because I think he's red hot to get that all wrapped up, which is well deserved by him. He's been really consistent and I think taken his performance to another level so far this season. So give me something bold.
I'm going to go Kai Allen.
Oh, yeah?
I think Kai Allen's braking style and the way that he gets the car stopped at turn 3 and turn 6 probably will suit this place. And everyone's expecting Will Brown to come back with this mad resurgence, so I'm really looking forward to see how he goes. But I think Kai will be hard to beat this weekend.
Now, don't forget, we're actually going to take Motor Racing 360 on the road for the first of the Enduros. We will do the show from the Bend, and we'd love for you to come along and be part of the audience. So all you need to do is scan the QR code now and register your interest. Time for a quick break. We'll be back with all your questions answered. Welcome back. Our quality performance of the week brought to you by CRC. Brake clean belongs to this man, Kyle Larson. What a rock star. So the NASCAR star won sprint car racing's biggest prize, the Knoxville Nationals, only hours after finishing 6th in the Cup Series race at Richmond. So what does he do? He jumps out of his NASCAR, heads to the airport, jumps on a private jet. They follow him all the way to the racetrack, Mark, and then he goes out
and beats them at the biggest of the sprint car races in the world. So it's out of control. That is just incredible skill. You know, everyone talks about Max Verstappen. If he's not one of the best drivers in the world, then something's wrong.
Yeah, I reckon Shane Bankisbergen could do that too, right? Yeah. Race in one category, hop into a jet, fly somewhere else with a different time zone, jump on another racetrack. Love to see it. All right, we've got some viewer questions that we want to get to quickly before we say goodbye. And I love this one. If you had to pick one driver that is currently sitting outside the top 5 in the Supercar standings, who can realistically compete for the 26th title? Thanks to James M for sending in that question via email. Who you got for me, Scafey?
Gee, well, I'm looking at them really. I mean, you think about that and you think about a Mostert winning the championship last year. He's currently 8th. You think about a Ryan Wood, his pace has been so strong. You think about Will Brown coming back without air-restricted drama. So I think there's 3 or 4 in the back end of that could actually end up playing a big role.
Yeah, which is amazing to think that actually when you're looking at the top 10, at this point, I think any of them could win the championship.
Absolutely. Well, I was thinking about Anton and reading up on how they've been going. I mean, the chances of him moving way forward, huge. Now, also, a history buff question here, which is, Scafey, your favourite supercar driver to beat when you were racing full time?
Can you narrow it down to one?
Yeah, that's
the field,
yeah. Exactly. I mean, Glenn Seaton originally, because we had great battles in mobile cigarette packets for many, many years. But probably Russell Engel or Craig Lance. Probably Russell Engel have to be. It have to be Engel. Yeah,
I like it. Very good. The good news is more good news. We've got you completely covered this weekend. We've got Formula One back in action for the Dutch Grand Prix. We've got Supercars at Queensland Raceway. So just settle in, get everything ready for the lounge because there's viewing from the very first thing in the morning to all hours in the evening. We're looking forward to it.
And if you need anything in between to tuck yourself or the kids into bed, guess who's got a new book? He's got 15 on the bestseller list. She's about to get on here as well. Let's Go Racing. This is the second one. This is Repair Mission. It's awesome. It's awesome. I'm halfway through and I'm nervous.
I'll give you the tip. It's better than any I've ever written, so well done.
Good job.
Thank you. I'm excited to be launching the next version of Let's Go Racing. It hits all the good bookshops and the bad ones too from the 1st of September, but it's available for pre-order now. Thank you, gang. I've got a copy for each of you.
Thank you.
With a special note in the front, so I'll give that to you after the show.
And inspired by a crash from Brodie years ago, right?
Last year on the Gold Coast. I think everyone can remember that was such a spectacular crash. But what inspired this story for me was just the incredible teamwork from the guys and girls at Shell V Power Racing to get the car back to the workshop, get it all fixed up, and then be back out there to go racing the next day. It was incredible.
Let me sell a couple for you, all right? Camera 2. All right, here's the deal, all right? You don't just buy one for every kid that you love. You buy 2 because you love Jess. If you've watched her, if you love her, if you back her in, you buy a 3rd one too. It is available from the start of September. It's the perfect Father's Day, Mother's Day, Recreation Day gift. You are not an Australian unless you've got 4 of these.
I knew there was a reason why I love you so much. Thank you, PM. You're the best.
Any Toto you've done, mate.
Here to help, mate. Here to help.
Well, that's it, gents. I'll see you next week, and thanks to you at home for your company. We'll see you next Wednesday night for more Motor Racing 360.